My name is Candice Fields, and I'm going to present to you my modern classroom presentation. Hopefully this will turn out well, but I'm from Jenkins Middle High School. I teach business and computers. Been here for 20 some years. The reason that I saw this modern classroom module and the reason I chose it was because I thought it would be something that could help me better understand and communicate with the students while we were virtual through this COVID pandemic that we've been going through. And while doing this, I didn't really know it was a class. I thought it was just a little tidbit of information that we could use. But I was very blessed to learn and know these things. It's been beneficial. I've used it in my classroom and the ideas in my classroom. So now getting down to the nitty gritty, let's go through this. Step one of my presentation is identify the area of focus and the research question that I use to kind of help me present this topic and try to make this a better thing. And one of the things that, one of the areas of focus was to develop a virtual classroom option that assists students both in person and distance learning or virtual. When we went virtual the first part of March, year before last, and had to adjust our way of teaching. The students had difficulty, we had difficulty. It was hard to adapt for this type of learning because in our area we weren't really ready for it. Our students have very limited access to Wi-Fi, internet, and internet options. We're very poor in our community, so that caused a lot of students to fall behind, and you really couldn't punish those students for not doing their work when they didn't have access. That was hard to understand, hard to adapt to, and try to make that modification. However, because that first few months of virtual learning turned into a different way of grading because of that adaptation that we had to encounter, students felt that the next year when school started that it would be the same way. It wouldn't count as real school. Even though it was real school, we were taking grades, we were teaching our curriculum, we were doing everything we needed to. We just needed to be able to get to a better way of understanding, communicating that focus. So that was one of the big things that I wanted to look at, was trying to adapt my lessons in order to reach those students and let them know that, you know, this was education, this was something that was beneficial. And it was hard to, especially with high school, hard to address the issue of doing the work in a timely manner because at that age group, they're staying up late, playing video games all night and doing their homework at 9 or 10 o'clock at night when I'm usually, you know, doing my family thing and doing the home thing. So it caused a conflict, especially if they had any problems with the work or any issues or questions. The research question that I focused on was, what are some tried and true ways of teaching a classroom during COVID and still having student success? Again, it was hard to motivate students to complete this because their mindset, as well as family mindset, was that it wasn't real true education. So when we looked at that and tried to adapt that, I wanted to try to look at other people, especially that all the education was going through the same change and same adaptation. So I started contacting some of my fellow coworkers and trying to use some of the things that they did. I incorporated a lot of PowerPoints that were interactive. I tried to have alternate ways of teaching kids besides just my classroom, because I noticed that as I was doing it, I couldn't see the reaction of the students. So I would go through really quickly. And I know that caused the students to get behind and not understand because I just went through robotically and taught a class. And a lot of times I didn't explain it in as much detail as if they were in person, because I can see their understanding in their face and their expressions. But when it's virtual, you just kind of go, and you teach the curriculum straightforward, and there it is. And you don't really try to find the medium to address all the issues and maybe help with the understanding. So that was my big focus, was trying to get those students motivated, get it understood, get it addressed, and communicated effectively. Step two was learn more about my issue. Well, the first thing was motivation. How am I going to motivate these students? What kind of incentives I'm going to offer? How am I going to change my delivery of how I'm putting this out there? And we did a lot of motivation, especially prizes, incentives, to get the kids to get online, ask questions, attend Google Lives, tried different delivery methods instead of just videos. We did ed puzzles. We did that way the students were interactive while asking the questions. I had YouTube videos. I had students trying to teach the lessons. I even found other teachers teaching the lesson like on YouTube to put in there. Did a lot of contacts, contacting the parents, contacting the students, asking, are you having trouble? Went to several trainings, especially summer conferences that was held virtually and in person to get more information. Of course, I talked to my fellow workers, my fellow colleagues, looked at so many examples because, we are at the world of the internet and everything's at our fingertips. So yes, I did, Google this and find as much information as I possibly could to assist me. Use those examples and tried to find, especially the ones that were working for other teachers. Step 3, developed my plan of action. I chose business math and personal finance. They, do a lot of similar lessons. Started designing my unit and made this digital interactive notebook. And that was one of my fellow colleagues. That's one thing that she had found had worked. So I kind of mimicked what she had done and made a digital interactive notebook that I want to show you real quickly and try to make it look like it was as easy as possible. So let me show you that real quickly. This is my digital interactive notebook, and I designed it to make it look like a notebook. When you view this Google Classroom slide and look at it, all the links work and all the pages work. Sorry about it. Give just a second and let it pop up. And it looks like a notebook, so it's kind of like what they do. They can add their name to it. They can click on the different lessons and go through, like the first one, money, and then it asks your bell ringer, have you ever wondered what money actually is? They answer this, well, I need to get an understanding. And here is a video, class video that I prepared for the students to do. They can look through it, read it, watch it. They take notes over the videos, and then they complete the assignments. The assignments are linked here. If they have any other
we're going to go through
questions,
this part.
there are other links that they can go to that explain it differently, and maybe that would be something that they're interested in because maybe, that was something that I didn't do effectively, and like I hate listening to myself on video because my voice is horrible, and I know that they probably don't enjoy it either. I don't have a very pleasing voice, so it wouldn't be good for radio. I do have the face for radio, but the voice is not for radio. I don't have the face for TV or the voice for TV, so that would be another thing. And this digital interactive notebook worked a little better for the students who actually were motivated enough to do the assignments, especially the ones that had to be quarantined or were out for COVID reasons. It made it all to where that whole unit was in one place and they could go through and work at their own pace, and were able to complete everything and not have to look at 30 different Google Classroom assignments. It was, easier for them to follow, and they knew step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what was due, what needed to be done. Everything was right there for them. And when I go through here, step 4, implement my plan, collect and analyze. Of course, I designed that digital interactive notebook. I put it out there on Google Classroom. I showed the students how to use that, allowed them to go through, use it, and I made it to where they each got a copy so that they didn't have to worry about making a copy themselves. Each student was given a copy. When we were in classrooms, our assignments and stuff were all through that digital interactive notebook. That way the students got real familiar with using that digital interactive notebook. They knew where everything was, where to find it. If they got lost or didn't understand or had other questions, they could go back and reference that. Then they could also contact me. There was links to contact me in that. I also got to look at how the kids were using it in class. So as they were going through, they got to see and use. I asked for student feedback. Kids, so far, they liked it all, except they didn't like doing the work. But I don't think many kids do, no matter what it was. They liked having it all in one place. They liked that organization, and they like not having to click on different days. Like if they couldn't remember what day they were absent or what day that they missed or where this was, they wouldn't have to find the day in the Google Classroom in which it was posted. They could go back to the interactive notebook and find that section, and it was easier for them to find. So this kind of increased student success and student achievement. Step 5, communicate the results. We use the digital interactive notebook to complete all the assignments, complete the test, complete the review. And because it was in Google and we shared their documents, I could contact back and forth with the students, give them suggestions, and even help them. Like if they were struggling, if they missed a problem, or if they missed a question, then I could direct them in the way to answer that question effectively. I used it as a grading tool so that I could grade their work easily, go to Infinite Campus. The students could ask me, like if they were sharing an assignment, they could ask me questions or ask for understanding or more explanation on each problem, and we could go back and forth and communicate through personal comments. I'm always looking for ways to improve how we address this, especially during this pandemic, because the students are really getting behind. They're getting unmotivated. They're getting in a depressive state, and because of the lack of success and the more failure that they have, they're really hitting this mental depression and lack of motivation to be successful. And we got to change that. And I think this, this would be a big proponent. I just kept asking students and constantly asking, what can we do to make this better? I usually use forums and that kind of thing to get those feedback, keep it all in one format, one location. And that helps too when developing charts and looking at feedback. I don't take the criticism bad, because anything that we can do to make these kids successful is something that we need to do. And I'm one of those big proponents, change until we can make it better. But if it's working, let it alone. And just because it doesn't work this one time doesn't mean it's not going to work, because it's new. So give it a couple of days, give it a couple of tries before we give up on something. Step 6, continue reflection and plan a new cycle. I've continually made these digital interactive notebooks in each of my classes. It seems to work fairly well. Students like it because of the organization, having everything in one spot, and they know what to do, what needs to be done. They see how it affects them. And I think now that we're starting to get back in the routine of in person and having the back and forth and seeing the need for good grades and success, that students are doing a little more and they're getting more internally motivated, especially with their families. I think they're getting more support. And I really enjoyed doing this. As far as the modern classroom, I think it was a blessing because it forced me to look at different things and apply different technologies to different ways and different motivations. I have also looked at doing more. So this has been a very good blessing for me. I've enjoyed this, learned some different things. I would like to have more examples, more ways to motivate students, more ways to keep this going. And that way, we can all look at success, because that's the main goal of all this is student success. It's not teacher success. It's not teacher anything. It's students that are going to success, and they're going to succeed and change this world more than what we're going to do. We're going to make an impact, but these kids are going to change the world. So having them understand and be more accountable for their overall success is very beneficial. And like I said, this different methods of teaching and doing, and the digital interactive notebooks, the ways it teaches the independence was a real blessing for me.